Hello everyone, Meatspeed here, another Battlefield Heroes video. So I finally decided to get a new laptop, so I've been playing the game again recently. I know I haven't really done a gameplay video, any kind of video, showing the game itself, probably for like 5 or 6 months, and that's more or less the amount of time it's been since I've actually played the game properly as well. So yeah, it's been a while, definitely been a while. It's been nice to play again, get back into it and all that stuff. But yeah, I noticed something, and I'm going to go over it in this video. But yeah, basically, whenever I take like a hiatus or whatever, whenever I go away from the game for a few months and come back, I always notice the same sort of thing, and it's like a similar trend. So, no matter how long I go without playing the game, I'm always coming back and seeing like the same names, the same players and stuff like that. So it made me think, how many people are actually playing this game actively? How many people are, involved and playing? And, I'm not really seeing that many newer players. And the player count is something I kind of wanted to touch on here, and I wanted to bring up, and also to ask the question: do people still play BFH these days? So in terms of the player counts themselves, as of last month, because I did check like near the end of last month, so September, really like in terms of the actual biggest times, the peak times, it's always been like this, but yeah, so it's basically like EU times, basically at night, but it's always been like that. Night hours, you're going to get 60 to 80 players, maybe closer to 90 or 100, depending on the day, max. Normally like 5 full servers. So yeah, I did see like 100-ish. I think it was like last week on a Saturday. So like 6 full servers. Um, yeah, so that's normally like the peak, and again, like a weekend is going to help with that and affect it. But yeah, it's kind of sad really to see that compared to, and I know, there's going to be a lot of things you can pick at here with comparisons and stuff, but when you see a game like Team Fortress 2 that's still pulling in like 90,000 people quite often, on quite regularly, when the games are very similar and they have been like compared in the past, for certain features and different aspects, and a game around the same age as well. It's just wild, but again, I know, you can pick things out there. But yeah, so during the day, it's like not too impressive. I mean, especially on weekdays, it's understandable though. I mean, you're going to get barely 2 servers that are full, but I mean that makes sense, right? People are working, people are busy, they've got other stuff to do during the day on a weekday, during that week, and also, like I say, because of the EU community being so huge, that also contributes to it. There aren't really very many people in other regions. There's a very small Australian, US, and Brazilian community, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. So I wanted to talk as well about times and moments where the game, since it's come back unofficially and has been around, for a little bit, um, basically times where the player base sort of spiked a bit. People that have actually helped that, maybe unintentionally, but it's just happened and it's sort of increased the player count. So just to name a few here, Jack Frags, a channel, he's got, I believe, over 4 million subscribers on YouTube, which is pretty insane. He did a video on the game a few years back. I actually believe that video is, I think it's close to 1 million views, or it's got 1 million views. It's something like that. But yeah, that was pretty big at the time. I actually did like a response to him as well, which did quite well, so that was cool for me. Yeah, he did a video obviously showcasing it. That did spike the player base, I believe. Shroud, an even bigger name, 10 million followers on Twitch, I believe. He did mention BFH very briefly in like a Fortnite stream some years ago as well. I think he was like comparing the two games, or he just gave it a mention, which is pretty cool. And more recently, a streamer that played back in April, called Hubi, I believe, a German streamer, he was playing the game, and he's, I believe, got 70,000 followers, which again is pretty huge. And he did reach 1,000 people watching him play BFH at one point, which obviously blows, any other streams out of the water, like in the past. I'm thinking back to like in the original game when they tried to stream it, like the developers, they did events and stuff. Didn't even come close. But anyway, I know that was a very sort of dead period for the game, and I guess we're still talking about that now. But yeah, that guy even had his own server, which was used by his community and viewers. So that's quite a decent backing there with different names and people that are definitely like huge, especially compared to me. But I mean, the reality is all of this only helped short term and wasn't really sustainable. So yeah, I just wanted to also talk about like the, I guess, factors that contribute to less people. So I just came up with a few here. So too few updates potentially. You know, if you're someone who is looking for a game that's kind of frequently updated, there's always something new to do, or there's something new to sort of get involved with. This probably isn't the best thing for you, because honestly, you know, the updates aren't that often. You know, because I used to try and cover like a lot of updates, but obviously those are sort of those videos are kind of few and far between now, for obvious reasons. Another counterpoint to that is too many custom or updated content. Basically, like, I know I just said there aren't many updates, but the fact that there are other things in the game that weren't in the original game, in terms of maps and weapons and stuff like that, maybe people don't like that. You know, maybe people were hoping that it would be completely true to the original, and stuff like that. So yeah, just to balance that out. I mean, here's an obvious one. People have moved on. You know, the game has been back for as long as the original was online now. Actually, like 6 years. So that's pretty crazy to think about. And yeah, it just makes sense. You know, it's an old game now. You know, there's outdated mechanics and other things that you just think, oh, why is this still in the game these days? But I still personally think the game is very unique. I haven't played any other game that plays like BFH, even though like I've played games with similar concepts and you know, they've got the whole third-person shooter and a similar kind of feel, but again, it hasn't even come close to how BFH is. But yeah, you know, people move on, people do other stuff, people just, I mean, there are some people that just don't even like play games anymore, you know, which is fair enough. They just lose interest overall and in general. Another thing, maybe people don't want to start all over again after being used to like the older projects, because bear in mind this has been going since 2017. The game came back unofficially 6 years ago, so that's still a long time, and it was more popular as well back then on like previous projects and stuff. So maybe some people just don't really want to bother getting back into it again. And maybe if the old one or the original one had stuck around, maybe it would be slightly different, but I don't know, it's hard to say. This is a minor one, but people who almost exclusively play Commando not being able to get into that many servers because of class limits, although I understand why those rules exist. Um, I've seen some people as well in like my comments and other areas saying things like, you know, complaining about slow leveling, grinding, stuff like that, unbalanced gameplay. I know the team switch features there, but obviously not everyone likes to use it. And there used to be like low level servers as well, but I don't know. I'm not really seeing a lot of them lately. Maybe that is because of the low player count, but yeah, I can understand why some people would feel like, I guess, a bit overwhelmed, because it does seem that most of the people that are playing now are people that have played a lot of the game like over years. So you know, it's kind of hard to compete, I guess, if you're a new player or you haven't like genuinely haven't played for years and years, to, you know, get back into it and to try and do well, I guess, and to level up and everything, and to just feel like you're progressing. So another thing really, is the fact that it's not, you know, official. Maybe the fact that it's not official doesn't sit well with people, like the fact that they can't use their old accounts, even though, you know, it's kind of obvious that data was deleted years ago. You know, a side note as well, quick tangent. I always thought it was crazy. Like people thought because they bought an AK or something in the old game and it said, you know, time left unlimited, that the game would always be online. I mean, obviously it meant unlimited for the duration of the game being up and online. But anyway, that's just a side thing. But yeah, I think as well, still, there's a lot of people that wouldn't know the game came back at all. I mean, obviously, I've tried ever since the first revival, ever since that first, like, a glimmer of hope in gameplay. I've tried to, you know, get videos, get the word out, and I've tried to do that as best as I can. But yeah, I firmly believe there's a lot of people that did play the old game that still have no clue about it. And again, like, you know, it's a niche game. You don't need to tell me that. Obviously, it hasn't been too well advertised overall. And you know, I personally think like the peak years for BFH were like 2009 to 2011. Since then, it kind of slowed down a bit, went a bit downhill. But yeah. So as well, again, you know, going back to this, on some occasions when I'm playing and when I've played recently, I do see like a low level player or a new player, but to be honest, like especially depending on how they play, that doesn't always mean they're new. It could just be like a current player using a new account for whatever reason. But yeah, that's another thing to note. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to quickly talk about this. So I mean, the bottom line is, how do you get more players? How do we increase the community and the player count? And I honestly only thought of a couple, guys. So if you have suggestions on any of this, that'd be cool to read. But honestly, better advertising, maybe through YouTube or streams, collaborating with bigger YouTubers and streamers would help. Even someone with like 4 times my subscriber count, for example, would be useful. You know, just to help boost that. You know, there are so many names out there and people that could basically try the game for a really short time, to be honest, but maybe get a few people hooked in the process. I think that'd be interesting. And also more in-game or server events with incentives to play, like extra XP, VP, or item prizes, exclusive stuff, things like that. Yeah, but those are the only two I could think of, like right now off the top of my head. And I will actually check something while I'm doing this on the fly here. So if I look at the server list now, there are currently 74 people online as of the time I'm recording this. So just something I want to point out there. But yeah, I mean, I do hope in the future the game gets more exposure. I still think it like an official reboot or like BFH2 is pretty unlikely, but it would be nice, for the game to stay around for many more years, to and to have like a more lively community basically. But yeah, I've said this many times before. I'm grateful the game's back. I always have been. I always will be. It's always nice to play the game for a few rounds here and there. But I have obviously been playing it a lot more recently, just because of my situation. I can actually, I've got a competent laptop again, which is nice. I can actually run the game. So yeah, but yeah, that was about it really. I just thought it's something I want to cover and talk about. But yeah, I know more or less it's a bit weird of a topic to compare to some of these other games that have got better support and have always been, a higher standard and regard and stuff like that. But I don't know, guys. I thought still this was something kind of interesting to talk about, and yeah, maybe one day there'll be more people playing. But yeah, well, we'll see what happens. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.